Hello everyone! Today we want to give you a series of reasons why our LeoR universal housing is definitely the most technologically advanced housing in the world. And it's the only universal one compatible with over 200 models of mirrorless cameras from different brands and models, including Canon, Sony, Panasonic, Nikon, Blackmagic, and many others. Now let's start with point one. The first reason to choose our LeoR universal housing is definitely the direct support and direct pre- and post-sales assistance. We at Easydive, after 25 years of building equipment, will certainly listen to you and give you the best advice on what equipment is most suitable for your use, which brand or make of camera to use based on your needs, which lens, what the various port configurations and combinations are. And even though our advanced e-commerce site already has a configurator that guides you step by step based on the brand, model, and lenses, certainly one of the most important reasons, and one we're most proud of, is the direct contact. That means providing our support both during the purchase and then especially in the post-sales phase with support and assistance. Having direct contact, and if you don't understand something or if you need assistance, you get immediate assistance. The difference today, in my opinion, isn't just made in the sale of the product anymore, even though that and the quality are very important. There are many other super high quality housings in the world, absolutely, but what we, let's say, offer all our customers is a direct assistance service. So when you need anything, you don't call third parties, you contact Easydive directly. So if you want a customization, a personalization, a consultation, or you have any doubts, you won't have to go through, let's say, third parties. You'll come directly to us, and one of our technicians will answer you really quickly, and let's say directly and above all precisely. So we'll give you immediate and precise answers. And so I consider this a really great added value, both for all our customers and for us, because thanks to all our customers, today, after 25 years, Easydive has managed to create these housings. Truly technologically advanced housings. It's definitely the most technological universal underwater housing for mirrorless cameras in the world, but it's also very simple to use. In the sense that, yes, it's technology, but it's a really easy technology. A technology accessible to everyone. You just have to connect one cable and you don't have to do anything else but get in the water and have fun taking photos and making videos. In addition, everything related to after-sales support. I mean, all Easydive housings are made to last. So if you scratch a backplate or scratch a glass or break a component, Easydive will provide assistance and repair the product. This equipment is designed to be very solid and to last over time so that it always remains in perfect and optimal condition even in the future. The second reason is definitely the robustness and the warranty. LeoR is the only housing in the world with a lifetime warranty rated to 150 meters. Yes, you heard that right, operational at 150 meters. It is the only standard housing in the world operational at a depth of 150 meters because it uses a magnetic button technology, a technology that Easydive has been using for over 20 years, so it's extremely reliable. All the buttons have no O-rings, so water enters inside the buttons, and simply when we press the button, a magnet will approach the electronic board inside the housing, behind the aluminum, and will transmit the command very quickly, because clearly these cameras are all electronic. So the same input we have on the camera's button is the same input we have on the housing's button. So this great advantage allows to minimize the O-rings and water entry points. This is the only housing in the world where the water entry points, compared to all other mechanical ones, are limited to the back, where we even have a double O-ring on the back closure, and in the port part where we have the conical O-ring, the radial conical one. So truly the maximum in robustness and reliability, especially when you are going to insert inside camera bodies of this type, like the Sony Alpha 1 or many others of the latest generation, which are certainly cameras with incredible performance, but where it becomes really important to protect and guarantee your equipment to the fullest. So a housing, the second reason is certainly to have a robust housing made from a solid block of aluminum, all lightened, but with the highest standards to provide maximum reliability and robustness, even at very deep depths. There are 11 magnetic buttons, but via a switch button that gives you access to many features. Through a switch button, when we are on page 1, where we will have the main commands, you have the main commands, so camera power on, it's already on, but it's very simple. You can turn the camera on and off, shutter speeds, apertures, ISO, so here we will change the settings. In front, we will clearly have the record or video, depending on whether we are in photo or video mode. And we also have a switch button here that allows us to activate page 2 with the blue, or even go to page 3 with the yellow function on some cameras, and thus have many more functionalities. Furthermore, for the LeoR, the application is available on both the Apple Store and Google Play, easy setup. If we go into the wheel, we can change many things, from the LeoR settings, the camera settings, or the button settings. In this case, button settings, we have the default or preset 1, preset 2, so we can decide which button to assign which function to based on the available functions for our camera model. We have 3 customizable button pages where the user can independently set the various available functions depending on the camera inside the housing. Another thing, for now I'll leave it like this. If we go into the settings of the LeoR, here too we have many other things we can change. So retro mode, timeout. So this is the backlighting of the keys. We can set it to automatic as it is now. So by simply pressing a button, the backlighting turns on. We could disable it. For now, it has a 10-second timer. So after 10 seconds of non-use, the keypad turns off, but we can decide to leave it always on. So now if I press it, after 10 seconds, as you've seen, it turns off. But we can decide to keep it always lit, clearly from these settings here. Then we have the trigger, which is part of, let's say, the system that's in the housing for controlling the flashes via the fiber optic cable. We can decide to activate it. Right now it's on. Here we also already have the provision for an SDI video output. So it's powered, it's on. In case we don't want to use the SDI output because we don't have the monitor or whatever, we can turn it off, and this way the internal converter doesn't draw battery power and gives you even more autonomy. And here we have the 2 Blackmagic batteries and the dummy battery. With the dummy battery, if we activate it, the camera can draw power from the housing's batteries. This is a very important feature that I will now explain in more detail. So just to tell you that with this application and this housing, you can really do a lot of things, and it's a very, very universal and versatile housing. On the website, we have all the PDFs with the list of available commands based on the camera type. And additionally, inside the LeoR, we have an OLED display at the bottom. The OLED display shows all the most important info. So from the aperture, as we can see, to the shutter speed, the ISO. We have the white balance, in this case with the temperature. We have the resolution. We have a ton of information from the camera. And this also changes depending on the camera inside, whether it's for photo or video, or if we're in photo or video mode. So it has the resolutions, if they're in JPEG, in RAW, the various resolutions. And we already have that in the info, but the OLED display isn't just for seeing this info. It also allows us, by simply pressing the switch for about 4 or 5 seconds, to enter the menu. What we saw earlier through the application, we can also do directly, not from the application, but directly from the housing. So if we want, we can go to, number 1 is the vacuum check. Number 2 is the Bluetooth connection, used to connect cameras that have a Bluetooth connection. Number 3 is the language. So in this case, we could change the language from Italian to English. And then, of course, we can also go to the next pages. With button 4, which is this one, we'll go to the next pages. So here we have number 1 are the Blackmagic parameters. Number 2 is the memory reset, to perform a reset if we have multiple Blackmagic cameras. So it clears it, and we can add another one to do the pairing. And number 3 is the backlighting. So in this case, we can decide, as before, whether to have it on automatic, so set, or to have the keypad always on or even off. Continuing on, again with button 4, we have another menu page for power configuration. In this menu, for example, we have the power supply configurations. We can decide whether to power the camera directly from the internal batteries or to activate and power the trigger, which is the fiber optic control system. You see here, number 2 is off, and if I press it again, number 2 is on. As for the SDI, this is to power the SDI output converter, and that's button 3 here, which can be set to off or on. So we can decide whether to activate the SDI output, the trigger, or the power to the camera. Pressing the on button takes us back to the previous screen, and then we can go back to our usual menu. Another great advantage is definitely the supplementary power supply. With these new mirrorless cameras, which are incredible, battery management becomes a very important issue. And with the new LeoR, it's possible to power the mirrorless cameras directly from the housing's battery. So inside the housing, it opens like this, and here we have the double O-ring. We even have two batteries. One is standard, the second is optional. These batteries are extremely high performance because they guarantee a minimum battery life for the camera of 8 to 10 hours, depending on the type of camera we put inside. With the Blackmagic, we can get a battery life of over 4 hours, considering that the Blackmagic is a camera that has a very large monitor and consumes a lot of battery. With the Canon R5 or other cameras, like the Sony Alpha one, we can easily reach up to 10 hours of battery life. So this way, all mirrorless cameras have the ability to draw power directly from the housing's battery. And so you can easily do 2 or even 3 dives in a row without having to open the housing, because once it's securely closed, we can power it on, and therefore have a very long-lasting and reliable battery life, which allows us to comfortably spend the entire day on the boat, enjoying our time, and do all the dives we want to do without worrying about running out of power. So whether for work, for snorkeling, for long shoots, or full days of shooting, once the housing is closed, thanks to this double battery, we can get a very long battery life. Another great advantage, and certainly one of the most important, is that this LeoR is truly the only universal housing in the world, which allows you to insert a great many camera bodies. A very important concept that we try to convey is that the housing automatically and seamlessly recognizes different camera bodies from various different brands. So right now, inside, I have the housing set up for the Blackmagic, but if I want to insert the new Nikon Z8 or a Canon R5 or a Sony Alpha 1 Mark II, I will simply have to buy the centering base, which is a base that is mounted under the camera body, and it helps me to perfectly center the camera inside the housing and the software. With the LeoR, this software is simply sent to you and you perform the update through the application. The housing receives it, you go into the settings menu, it receives the enabled software update and thus enables the new camera. Another reason certainly is the whole series of accessories that you can add to the LeoR. The LeoR comes, let's say, quite bare, but with several pre-arranged ports. So from the backlit keypad, which is an accessory, to the ball mounts for connecting arms for lights or flashes. We have these in 2 versions, the normal standard ones like this, or the quick release version, which has a quick release button. Then there are several ports with different M14x1 caps, where we can, of course, add 5-pin Nikonos connectors for our flash cables. We can add S6 connectors for flashes with an S6 type connection. We can add the SDI video output, which is a 2-pin waterproof connector that allows us to connect a monitor or a surface video feed. The vacuum system. And at the front, we clearly have the port for the fiber optics if we have the trigger installed inside. So a whole series of accessories. Now specifically, I'll show you one of the most important ones, which is definitely the vacuum system. On the LeoR, it's really very interesting because it's very simple and provides double security. First of all, we have the cap, which is an extra safety measure. That is to avoid forgetting to close the vacuum properly, which is really difficult. You could even dive simply without the cap, because this way the housing is perfectly sealed. But the cap has an additional O-ring that allows us to lock it completely. This way we will open our vacuum, so letting air inside the housing. We'll go into the housing, pressing the switch button. As I showed you before, we go into the menu. Number 1 is the vacuum. Button 1 is clearly the one at the front. I connect the vacuum. So on the display, we are in the vacuum position. And the very interesting thing is that the display shows us the internal pressure of the housing. So now we have 1000 millibars, practically the atmospheric pressure. We connect our pump, we start pumping. So we draw out air, it goes down, as you can see here on the display. When it reaches the correct and appropriate pressure, it will audibly say the word stop to indicate that the desired pressure has been achieved. At this point, you should press the OK button to confirm. So now we carefully screw it on, making sure to leave the pump securely attached throughout the process. A 3-minute counter starts. Here we are. We've successfully passed the test. As you saw, we reached a value of 892. It rose only slightly, by 0.03. So in reality, we're really talking about almost nothing, just a minor fluctuation due to the internal temperature of the camera. So as a result, we have no leaks. Now, to show you, if we release the pressure instead, here, we open the cap. And there, the pressure returns to 1 bar. Other very important accessories, especially for video makers, but also for photographers, is the monitor. This monitor is an SDI monitor. This means that we won't have the connection via the 21 pins of an HDMI, but a high-definition signal using just 2 pins. So the female connector on the panel is perfectly waterproof. This means that even if due to any error we flood the monitor or cut the cable, we will never flood the housing. That is, there will never be any water infiltration into the housing, as the connector, the female part on the panel, is completely sealed. The connection is quick, like this. It's a surface connector, so it clearly needs to be connected on the surface. You can't disconnect it by pulling because it's tear-proof. To disconnect it, you simply have to pull from this bottom part here. And so here we can then easily adjust our monitor, change its position, put it in various positions, and it's really very simple. The monitor is clearly a case, so we can open it, and the monitor we have inside can easily be used for land-based shooting as well. So when needed, you have this dual-use capability. It's a housing for a very good 5.5-inch monitor, and this is another accessory I really recommend. Of course, our converter must be installed inside the housing. I'll show you the inside in more detail later. Another accessories, the bracket, let's call it a second handle, which can obviously be attached under the LeoR to adjust its position either wider or narrower. Under the LeoR, in the base, we find several pre-drilled mounting points. These 4 M5 holes will be used to connect our Mobi or the tray Mobi, allowing us to attach it to a scooter mount or many other accessories. In addition, there are several M8 holes to position the bracket underneath, and other holes that we might need to connect a tripod or any other accessory. Here you'll see the zinc anode, which protects the housing from corrosion. We have 2 of them on the LeoR housing, one on the body and one on the, let's say, the back. Here we have a stainless steel carabiner that's used to attach it with a D-ring to the diver, so to ourselves. And what else? Over here we have the knob to operate the zoom gear, so the zoom gears. It's also possible to add an extension with another knob to adjust the focus. We prefer to recommend using prime lenses, and in that case, using the same gear we use for zoom but for focusing. This way we don't have double gears, which can sometimes be a bit difficult to align perfectly. Whereas when we have just one gear, and these are made with a dedicated 3D printer, we can never go wrong. Once we insert the gear, it will work perfectly. What else? On the back, we can of course add a sun hood. So we have a sun hood accessory that I'll show you now. Continuing with the accessories, we have this sun hood that attaches with a bayonet mount using these threaded holes on the back. It's very useful because you can also remove it in the water, tie it with a lanyard so you don't lose it, and when needed, it allows you to see the camera's display much better. And it also protects the back of the housing from scratches and accidental bumps. Inside, so we're going to open our LeoR, and we have the dual water alarm. So one in the rear section, we see these 2 sensors, and the other is internal near the battery. Then, here we have the part for the housing's power supply. From here, using this connector, we can recharge both of the housing's batteries with its power adapter. Or the batteries are bayonet style. They can be removed and installed in a dual charger, so in a charging base to charge them outside of the housing. The housing works standard with a single battery. The second supplementary battery is optional, so it can easily be integrated this way, and we just insert it. We have a second water alarm, a second sensor, so a dual water alarm sensor. Additionally, this is the power LED that tells us the housing is on, and a main switch for the housing. Now it's off, or this way it turns on. In the internal section, still part of the power supply, we also have the option to connect power to the camera. So simply via a small cable, you can either insert a dummy battery in some cases, or via a cable enable power to the camera. And so we can use the dual batteries not only to power the housing, but also to power our cameras. Inside, we also find a trigger. This one is for controlling the flashes via fiber optic, and it's already fixed in position inside the housing. I don't know if you can see it in this central part here. And here we have our converter for the video output. The converter is, of course, always powered by the housing. We have the option for both the trigger and the converter to disable their power supplies. So if we're not using them, we can go into the housings menu and disable the power. And also disable the power to the camera, always from the keypad, even underwater. Meaning, if we are underwater and we see the battery level is getting low, and we are not using the trigger, the monitor, or other accessories, we can also reduce consumption, although this is a problem that won't happen, as the batteries are really high performance and it's unlikely something like this would occur. But the important thing is to know that from the keypad, even underwater, it's possible to enable or disable the power supplies, both to the camera, the trigger, and the converter. So the converter allows us, using a very convenient flat cable, to connect the HDMI output of our camera. This brings the signal to the converter, and then through our SDI connector, which uses just 2 pins, it goes to the outside of the housing, to the monitor, providing a high-quality video signal. That's all there is to know about the inside of the case. Over the years, we have developed a whole range of portholes. Thank you. Complete in function of all the various objectives to do all the various uses. So we have both the optical crystal and the plexiglass. The optical crystal, we have the Zen version, an Easydive version, always of the highest quality, and all the plexiglass porthole part. The best choice clearly always depends on the use you will have to make of it. Therefore, on the type of use and the operational depth from many small aspects, certainly. Over the years, we have developed on our site a configurator that will guide you step by step. So it will be simple to simply choose the type of camera you want to use. If it is a Sony rather than another model, which camera, therefore, at this point, you already have or will have to buy. So the LeoR, or in this case here, the LeoR, which lens and the system, our configurator will propose you the best kit, the best combination for this. Of course, our website and various social media platforms always offer our WhatsApp number and contact information for any questions or additional advice. Don't hesitate to contact us. We only sell directly, so we can provide this information and try to give you the best advice based on your intended use. So, depending on the use you intend to make of it, we will recommend one oblo rather than another. For assembly, it is really very simple. All these accessories, there are various extensions. This is the flat porthole that is usually used for macro lenses. These are spherical portholes in plexiglass or optical crystal. We have a white dot with a white dot, so we will simply mount our extension. There is a lock that ensures everything is locked. Ditto, in the case, we have the white dot. With the white dot, we rotate. Clack. We will have the housing block, so simply to remove the porthole, we will slightly remove the block, and at this point, we remove our porthole in a really simple and quick way, and we can go and interchange it with many other micro-DOM full-frame DOM ports. Clearly, these larger ports are a little more suitable for photos in mid-water or videos in mid-water. This is the Easydive. It is a porthole always dedicated to wide-angle lenses, whistles. A bit more of a compromise that allows us to do a bit of everything, or these mini DOMs that are used, or micro DOMs. We have 2 or 3 models, so depending on the size, they are used more for technical diving or to take close-up wide-angle images. Naturally, these macro ports can then be added to a lens support system to support all the additional lenses, thus allowing for even more advanced macros. Another reason is certainly the after-sales assistance, which we continuously provide on all our cases. Every user who purchases a LeoR on our site has their own dedicated profile where they can find everything related to maintenance, expiration dates and servicing, their updated software, user manuals, usage tips, and everything else related to their equipment. You will be informed automatically from our site through our CRM. The last reason, but certainly not the least important, in fact we consider it the most important of all, is definitely environmental respect. These housings are designed and built to last over time. They are the only universal housings in the world for previous, current, and future cameras. So it's a housing made to last. In today's society, where consumerism tends to prevail over everything, we often buy dedicated plastic housings that are destined to become waste. Especially for us divers and sea lovers, we must think very carefully when we purchase a housing. It's not just about the financial investment. Over time, it becomes a more advantageous investment compared to housings that might be cheaper at first, but don't remain so over the years, because then you're forced to change your camera, change your housing, and spend money again and again. This is an investment where you buy a housing today that is made to last. It's made with an old school ideology and concept, one that isn't tied to consumerism. It's about buying a product that will surely last over time, not just for today, but for future generations as well. For previous cameras, current cameras, and the cameras that will come out. So a housing made of aluminum. A housing that, as I was saying, unlike many others, won't become waste because it can be reused over time. thanks to the technology that makes it the only universal housing in the world. So I urge you, especially those of us who love the sea, let's respect the environment, let's buy a LeoR. For any information, please follow us on our social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Always follow us, and for anything at all, don't hesitate to get in touch. Bye everyone.